is I'm going to ask everyone intro's and maybe say a couple of things that they're going to be working on, if that's okay. I've forced Robbie out of the audience, so we'll start with Robbie, that might be a good idea.
It's the first time I've ever gate crashed a party and got away with it.
Should we start with you, so if you let everyone know who you are and what you do right now?
I'm Robbie Morrison from 2000 AD. I used to write Shakara and Nikolai Dante and the Odd Judge Dredd. Of late, I've been writing a series of crime novels set in 1930s in Glasgow. The second of which, Cast a Cold Eye, is currently 99p on Kindle for the rest of this month. So jump in there. I've got to get my plug in first. I'm also I'm working on a graphic novel called Heretic with Charlie Adler, which will hopefully be out by the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm Mike Carroll. I write Judge Dredd, Dreadnoughts, Protect, well, Protect is over now. And Silver, it's a new thing coming up for 2008, art by Joe Craig. And it's sort of Project X's that we don't talk about. We all have those things that we don't talk about because we want to pretend in secret, not because we're terrified it might happen. So, that's not me.
Hello, my name's Rob Williams, and I always get terrified when people say talk about what you're working on, not because I'm being secretive, because I realise I can't remember, which I think is more about my age more than anything else. But I write Judge Dredd, and I write other stuff. I've been writing a book called Petrolhead for Image the last couple of years, last year, not so long. I'm already writing a couple of things.
I've been Edgington, Judge Dredd, Scott Tracy's, Stickleback, Kingmaker, Brasser and stuff.
And I'm Susie Whittle, and I currently write guns for Monster Fun, and that's the first time I've said that. So my first question is, when I tell people that I've been writing comics, they ask me if I put the words in the balloons. So I was wondering how you describe what you do when people don't read comics and you have to explain it.
Yeah, but first of all, I go, well, people write them. The artist writes and draws everything. But I tend to say it's a little like a film script, but then they don't know what a film script is. So I just say, well, imagine two people in a room, person A talks, person B written, and things like that, and they're different places. Because it sounds like work then, it doesn't sound like work.
Yeah, I always like the kind of furrowed brow you get when you say, I write comics. And people look at you as though that's not what you do. Is that a real thing? Yeah. Can you actually do that? Which is a valid stance.
Yeah, I get the same. I get people looking at me and go, "You write comics," and they're thinking, "No, he means read comics," but they don't realise that someone actually does create the stories. But I used to get the same look when I used to write romance novels for a living. People would go, "You write romance? Is everything okay at home?" But they won't ask that out loud because then. If they do ask that, then I might tell them, and they really don't want to know. So yeah, but people generally don't grasp until you actually explain. No, someone has to make up the story. Oh, yeah, it's what they do. Yeah, that's what we get.
I've given up. I just say yes. I put the words in the word, and then later on for throwing axes at me and stuff like this. Sound effects coming over. No, I usually try and. Right, but what Ian said, it's about writing a film script or a television script, but yeah, that usually, that goes over, that's specialised as well. And I have had the people stare at you when you tell them comics and stuff. People make a living out of that.
Do they still do
comics?
Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah.
I had someone think that I wrote 4 comics, so I now claim all of Sarah Millican's back catalogue, which is quite good.
Oh, actually, I've had that one time at a party. I was chatting to this girl that we kind of sort of knew her a wee bit, and obviously the guess the conversation couldn't be going very well because she looked at me and said, "Well, you're a comic, make me laugh." Which, oh.
And you went, page 1.
Interior. So what? The other thing that people might not know about writing comics is that it often doesn't start with writing comics; it starts with fiction. And I think fiction is terrifying and awful and a craft in of itself. So I wondered if you had any hints or tips about me and the rest of the audience about fiction.
Yeah, it's you've got to be able to tell a story. It's very short. There's a thing called the elevator pitch. hypothetically, you're trapped in an elevator with someone, and after you try the thing, can you get out through the? Yeah, you can't do that. You've got a tiny amount of time to say what your story is, and you get it over to the editor. When I do a pitch document for a part, if it's a series, I will have it all worked out, and I'll break it down into smaller and smaller chunks. So you have the whole story worked out, and then you go, do a whole lot in one page, then do a whole lot in one paragraph, or even one sentence. If you can't do that bit, you shouldn't be doing the other bit. But telling story in short form is harder than telling it in long form. Famously, the philosopher Blaise Pascal said, "I've written this letter long because I lack the time to make it short." You have to learn how to distill your story into. Someone says to you, "What is it about?" And you've got to be able to say, "It's about a cop in the future who's very hardline." That would be, just obviously. But if someone says what it's about, and you're going, "Well, there's kind of this, and there's kind of that, and there's kind of, it's a bad story." A great example is The Phantom Menace. I don't want to pick on Star Wars, but what is it about? And you ask someone that, and they go, "Well, it's about Anakin, no, it's about Obi-Wan, no, it's about Qui-Gon, no, it's about Darth Maul." There's no core. You need the core, and that's what your pitch is.
Yeah, ideally you go, someone says, "What have you got?" You go, "There's a giant shark eating people, and they're trying to stop the giant shark."
Perfect.
I mean, it's just like, it's there.
That's what you need.
You pretty much got a sentence. You probably have 2 sentences at most to get someone. And they will, for all, you can go, "I've got this great story, this great set piece, these characters." If you can't actually get someone to at very least kind of go, "I'd like to hear more," after your first sentence or two, you probably not get, to be honest with you. So it's just trying to squeeze it into a short period.
I'll write everything down that's in my head, and then I'll kind of like cut until you've got like just a call in. And if that call doesn't work, you go, "Okay," and you just put it to one side and come back 6 months, and then you might have something, a bit more information. You can do something with it. But although, I mean, like Scarlet Tracy, which is like, Victoria introduced the leftover marketing technology. But that's, and that was it. But it's for that one, there must be 20, 30 ideas that you pitch that people go, but also, it can be the timing. I've re-pitched stuff with a bit of a tweak a year or two later, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, great." And it's like, "You hated it the first time." It's just like,
I like the exact same thing with Mayflies for 2008, which is a Rogue Trooper based story. I pitched it years ago to Matt, and then he came back to me years later and said, "We're looking for something to do with Rogue Trooper that might be the age of a younger group." And I went, "Oh, here's the same idea." And he went, "Yes." Yeah. So a good story and solid idea will find its time.
Yeah, but you never know if the person at the other end is having a bad day or they're going through a crowd and stuff, just like you do. So it could just be catching them at the wrong time. But it is just paring things back to the boat. And if you can still get it to work, then that's good.
Yeah, and if you pair it back into something left, that means all you've got is a collection of ideas. But a collection of ideas is not a story. A seed is not an oak tree, especially if it's a sycamore seed, then you're really screwed. But you have to have something at the core, and as Ian says, something absolutely solid to build on. But you don't start necessarily with that. That will form from the ideas. If you did your work as a creator of a company to build, and not just start the first thing you think of and see where it goes. Some people do that and they get away with it.
Because a long time ago, when I was first starting as well, I would think spectacle was all, and I would be much considerate of my character. So like, it's like, "You've got this," and it's like, "Oh, and they go, "Yeah, but who's it about? What's the?" And it's only as you learn your chops over time, you actually realise it's somebody reacting to that world where we've got marketing technology, or it's how that impacts on them. So that's how in the stories. All right, it's all about how to flex on empire and how it's affected on people personally. And so that's where the story lies. Then it's not just this big picture, and the big picture in the background. Then it's the focus of the characters in the foreground.
I would usually try and keep it to an initial pitch, no more than a page. And you're trying to put across the idea for that story and the characters in the world, and tell a story that would be rounded, beginning, middle, and end. But also I usually try and drop hints that this has got legs. It's that there's potential for this to go on after that. All in one page. It's terrible actually. Pitches are a pain.
On that one page as well, I would have a sense for what the ending is. Because you need in that if it is like no more than one page, A4 probably is your initial pitch. You need a sense of start, middle, and end basically in that, because at least subliminally telling the editor, I know how to tell a story.
Yeah.
And at its most basic essence, they need start, middle, and end. You know?
But I was saying that part does get easier when you know the editor. Well, we've all worked with Matt Smith in 2008 for so long now. And we can say to Matt, well, I want to do X, and he would go, yeah or no. And that's it. Usually there's no more, well, please let me have a go, and I promise it'll be good this time. But, because he knows straight away whether something will or will not work. But if you're pitching to a new editor, the story is what you're selling, as well as yourself. You've got to say, no, I can do this, and it can be very hard to write a pitch. And some people do a pitch like the back of a book blurb. You read the back of a book, that's not a pitch for an editor. That's a pitch for a buyer, if you like. The editor has to know that you know where the story is going, because if you was a writer, and this is just a generally true thing, that people might disagree with, but they'd be wrong. If you don't know where how the story ends, how do you know when you're finished writing it? You can't just go, yeah, that's a good ending, that will work. Or you can't go, then she stops him in the back and says, you bastard, the end. Which is how the Omen ends. You have to have an ending that you knew from the beginning. Otherwise...
Unless, the exception that proves the rule is John Wagner, who always says, won't write synopsises or anything like that, because he doesn't want to know how it's going to end.
Which is absolutely true, but John has a certain pedigree behind him. Who you can trust that John knows.
Or he doesn't want to give away his secrets.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, certainly for me, I always had to know how it ends. And it doesn't mean you're always going to use that ending, but you have to have somewhere that you're aiming towards as you're writing and as you're plotting the story. And you can then get halfway and go, oh, it would be better if we went the other way. But at least that you are going towards something rather than just wandering around hoping you. Actually, it's like if you're a gold miner, you're far better off going to look for gold where the gold is likely to be than to stand in your back garden with a tin and go, oh, for me, like maybe gold lands here, because that's not going to work. So you have to put the work in. That one do.
I think my initial pitch for Nikolai Dante was pretty short. It was what Han Solo got the lightsaber instead of boring old Luke Skywalker. Just so you have the womanizing, smuggling, hard drinking adventurer. Is this a more interesting character than just all?
Yeah.
If any of you are on social media, there was a big hashtag recently about how to write comic strips, and people have lots of very, very particular ideas. And two of my best bits of advice I've ever read about writing come from Rob and Mike. Rob said recently, you just do what needs to be done, and then it's done.
I think it's not. I don't really.
Whatever gets you through the night.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Because there was a big thing on social media where certain people were getting very uppity and kind of saying, no, comic scripts have to be this, and comic scripts have to be, they have to be that. And it seemed to be being prescribed by people who hadn't written a lot of comics as well, which is always annoying. But it's just like, there are no hard and fast rules, basically. It's just, whatever is comfortable for you and the artist, and it is, like, because Alan Moore famously writes very verbose, sort of like poetic, sort of long, sort of panel descriptions. John Wagner writes dread grim, two words being haikus. And you're talking about two of the best comic writers we've ever had. And they've got utterly different styles. So anyone who tells you comic scripts have to be like talking bullshit.
Yeah.
You know this as well, right? My other favourite piece of advice is your advice, which is a writer's job is to tell the story to the artist. It's the artist's job to tell the story to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could just talk about that for
you know me, since I can talk about anything for hours. That doesn't mean it's going to be any good. Yeah, no, that is something I realised working with PJ Holden many years ago. Is that if my script is me being clever and showing off, he's the only one who's going to see that. That doesn't work. I've got to give him the tools, as it were, to create the story, and I also have to trust them. And this is true of every artist I've worked with. They know more about the art than I do. So I would say, I want this to happen in the story. The way in which it's told, I would say, well, I want this to be close up. This should be, an over the shoulder shot, whatever. And they go, absolutely, yeah, they just do whatever they want because they have an instinctive feel of which way it should go. If there's a fundamental mistake in the storytelling from my point of view, they can fix it. So they have a lot more free room, and rightly so, than I do. But yeah, you have to trust the artists. Sometimes they'll get it wrong. I have one comic many years ago where there's a terrifying demon that you don't see until the last panel, and for some reason the artist drew the terrifying demon like a giant chicken man, and all of a sudden this horror story turned into this weird kind of silly cartoon thing and ruined the whole atmosphere. And so we buried him under the apple tree. It was like no. So okay, that was the case where they didn't do what I told him to do. But for the most part, you have to trust the artist. The way it works is that people look at a comic, the first thing they notice is the colour, subliminally, if there's colour, and then they notice the art, and then they notice the lettering leads them into the story. So our job as a writer is to lay the foundation, but if it wasn't for the rest of the people, they wouldn't have anything to look at. So they do a good job.
I did an issue of Suicide Squad once, so the script said there were 10-foot tall super soldiers that entered the prison, and when the pages came back, fully drawn and inked, he'd drawn 100-foot tall super soldiers. And then there were sequences with them running down corridors after our heroes, and it's like in a prison with low ceiling. How the fuck does this work? So sometimes what you say in the script and what comes back can be slightly erratic, shall we say.
I did a what if Hulk for Marvel, because it's in Marvel style, you can do the plot and swift up the illustrated pages later. So the guy got the pages, and basically because they could sell splash pages, every other page was a splash page, and so it's like I can't write my story around what they've drawn because this is meant to be a 5-panel page and it's just like a little set and then a big thing with Hulk going. It's like no, the dialogue, and it was just horrible. That one, it was just.
I had the same. A similar thing with where like Jennifer Blood for Dynamite, and the artist would write that artist would obviously just looked at the panel descriptions and drew the panels appropriately. It didn't take into account how much space for the dialogue. So there's a couple of cases where he drew nice big panels where there's only 2 words of dialogue with preceding panels on the page which are squashed at the top. I've got all the actual 50, 60 word captions and so on. And now I have to rewrite my script to make it work your way. But most of the time you trust the artist. Yeah.
That's why I think them companies like Ivy work really, people like that, because a lot of like Disraeli, because it kind of was an old married couple. So we know each other kind of mindset, and that's kind of how it works. But so working with somebody new,
yeah, we just did recently Judge Dredd: A Better World, which is a prime example of this, and we've worked with Henry Flint a bunch of times, and Henry is like a savant with comic storytelling, and Henry just basically sent an email, said I might try something different this time. So we was initially sending through 5-panel page scripts, and what came back was Henry had basically was turning them into like 14-panel pages effectively. And every visual dialogue beat, he was giving an individual panel to, and he was breaking out in the scripts now. And then after we got about 4 or 5 issues into it, and we knew what he was doing, we started writing to that style. And in fact, the ending of Maitland's death, which spoiler, it was basically a direct result of Henry breaking. Because I went, okay, so I know what we do. We have a pressure build of like a spread with 24 panels of beep, 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 and then you turn the page and that would be the double page splash. So that's a prime example of you working with an artist who you have absolute trust with. Because normally if you haven't worked with them before, they say, I might try something different. Your scrotum is shriveled. You go, okay, where's this going? But like with someone with Henry Skill, I've worked with a bunch before. You go, yeah, go for it. It's all going to be great.
Yeah, well, when I think of go with Henry, I think for that time when I worked in Chicago with him, I asked him what sort of stuff do you like to draw, and he basically said I like to do something different every page, and I just took it as a challenge and went, okay, I'll give you something different every page. It's always a collaboration. And I tend to view the script as you have to tell the story as best you can, but obviously nobody else sees the script beyond a few people. But I always try to tell you still have to put a little bit of flair into your writing when you're doing that. It's spark of the artist's imagination, so they bring something of themselves to it rather than, that's happening for it. Let's say somebody phones in a job or came back and work with script or artwork, but it's you're trying to get spark their imagination so they anchor themselves into what you've already written. So what actually hits the page is a genuine collaboration between an artist and a writer rather than what's the script and an artwork.
There could be a bit of us trying to make ourselves the most important part of the motor here, but we do have to trust the artists, but at the same time you have to rein them in, because John Higgins, who shall remain nameless, many years ago I did a short story with him, and it's at some point I got the art back, and because I always get the art back sometimes, you don't always get it back, and before it goes to printing, I read the script and I'm going. So I said, "So what did you draw?" I said, "Yeah, I didn't like your ending, so I drew my own ending." How does it work with what came before? And he goes, "You'll make it work." So I ended up spending twice as long rewriting everything to try and figure out what his team did. And his work was absolutely beautiful. So I couldn't say to him, "Well, can you drop this panel or do that?" No. So I had to work on why he did. And is it a better story because of that? No. But the story was better before he did his bit. But he was happier, and that's more important. So, but sometimes you have to go, yeah, this wasn't what I was expecting. And now and again, if you're doing a serialized story, the artist will do something and makes you go, well, I didn't want the story to go there, but. And one example of that it hasn't come up yet is the second episode of the new Dreadnoughts coming out next month. There's a panel at the very end where just the look on a character's face made me go, I don't know where we could go in the future with that. And it's completely changed book 4 or 5 down the road that I wasn't thinking about. So, you build on that.
The only thing I don't like are horses. They really don't like drawing horses.
My story loves horses.
Oh, look.
Yes, there's always going to be an exception. My story.
I mean, things in front of it's in the west, and I can hear directly screams all the way down.
And talking of artists doing something you weren't quite expecting, years ago I did a Nikolai Dante story called Russia's Greatest Sex Machine, or Love Machine, sorry, which was in the kind of infamous sex issue of 2018. Somebody thought was a big marketing idea, and I'd written the story, and the story was essentially Nikolai Dante getting off with a bearded woman, which is a long story as to how we get to that stage in the first place. And it went to Chris West, and I'd written the script, so it was all going to be carry-on stuff with, objects covering all the nudity. And essentially, Chris just drew it as if it was a 1970s porn. And David Bishop, the editor at the time, sent me the artwork and said, "Can you do anything?" And I looked at it and so I just come back and said, no. That's why they ended up putting that particular issue in a bag. But it was, I looked at it and thought, did I write this? Actually, I didn't write it like this, but he just went. So at that point, you understood that just had to go out like that.
I'd like to know what do you wish you had known when you started?
The pay was shit.
Yeah, I think when I mentioned the money, yes. We don't have to pay quite as much as we used to, which is nice. Yeah. We don't make money from writing comics. The worst thing is you can't go to a convention and sell your sketches if you're not an artist. You can't say someone comes up, you write us a paragraph and stuff. Do us a haiku. Well, then you can ask. I'm not going to get. Yeah, that's annoying. The queues for the artists are always miles and miles and miles long. And the queues sneak past the writers' tables and they stand there trying not to look in the eye. Can I buy a comic or something? Yeah. I'm just inside the door, by the way. Didn't notice me.
I'm trying, from a practical point of view, I would say if you're starting out, keep an eye on royalties, because I think everyone starts out, which is a business side of it, not the craft side, but everyone starts out, you're just kind of lucky, happy to be doing the job. But as you go on, if you want to make this work as a living, you need to have little bits of money coming in from different projects you've done over time. And I would say you should have an eye on that type of stuff in the long term, you know, because that's why it's good to do a couple of create your own books here and there in your career. Because if all you're doing is writing 2000 AD or Marvel or DC, that's great when you're working for them. But if you're not working for them, the money isn't coming in from there. So basically, if you do a few create your own things as well, and it might not make huge money, but every now and again you get a nice check through, and it's very handy. So it's just a cumulative thing of making writing work for a living for you. You need to have little bits of money coming in from different pots.
I mean, it's very different from when I started because it was still kind of that frontier Wild West. You know, August drinking 3 o'clock in the bar kind of thing. And now it's very much you have to be engaged across different social platforms. I mean, I'm a Londoner, so but social media platforms and this and that. You know, it's you have to complete. I think it's a completely different mindset and a very much more business oriented mindset. Where
I mean, that is my next question is that you can't just be a writer these days, can you? You've got to be well, not everyone, but a lot of people, if you're putting your own stuff out, is a marketing specialist, and you have to be promoting your own. I mean, I've seen a lot of it with you, Carroll.
Well, we because it was create our own, so we felt like we had to, and we put a lot of effort into that, and we paid to have an animated trailer made, and things I've never done before. We really sort of, you know, to try and give it the best chance you can do. But you know, I think when you do create your own book like that, you are effectively starting up your own small business, it's you put a lot of work into. Which is outside of just making the comic, but at the bottom line is the comic's got to be good, and people don't like the comic. But it's hard work.
Yeah, the problem is, and that all takes time, and it's all time that you would rather be writing. That's what I've kind of found with a lot of reading. All these things need up time, and you end up it's like I really don't want to be doing this, but you feel you have to, and I don't actually know if you. I do wonder how much I'll be on Twitter and all that.
I don't think it helps sales at all.
No, I'm
actually
not particularly sure. Especially not since.
Yeah, since Elon just destroyed it. Yeah,
it's just there is a danger that you can lose track of the writing, and actually it begins to become less fun. Every now and again, you have to remind yourself, actually, this is fun. This is something you're doing because you're too busy thinking, well, I should tweet I should tweet it. My second novel is 99p on Google at the moment as a promotion. But there's always this wee thing in the back of your head. You think, no, because it is different from being creative.
Yeah,
So
working on the social media, you have to be. I would try to think of social media as a white-only medium. As a creator, I will put stuff out there and try not to look at what everybody else is doing because I get jealous. If I go on Twitter to post something and then I see a tweet from Robbie with a pension head, I'd be up. That's not fair because it's really good and I want people to buy my stuff instead. Well, as well. Sorry, but mainly instead. But it's
just a scorched earth policy to your competitors.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not necessarily true that every other writer has myths, but they might do. The way it works is if you let yourself get too distracted by what other people are saying they're doing, that it's not quite the same as what they're actually doing, then you won't put your own energy into your own work. You start fighting in your head. You're fighting them, and in reality, the other creators are not your competitors. You've just got to work and get your material out there. And if you don't create the stuff to begin with, you can't sell it. It's very easy to get too distracted and to think, what is this character going to be called? You know what I need? A logo. I will learn how to use this software. I don't have that software. I'll go to a pirate station. Oh, I haven't seen that movie. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, what was I doing again? And you have to turn off the internet sometimes and turn off Twitter and just apply seashell pants to seat of chair, apply fingers to keyboard, vomit it out onto the computer screen until you're actually done, and then try and sell it. And so many people do their Kickstarters where you you're looking at, oh, wait, am I just paying him to write the thing that he's trying to sell? And then I've got to buy the thing afterwards? No. So you don't want to sell what you haven't got. You create the material and then write it, and you cannot create it without being distracted. And coming to conventions is great fun for meeting, people and so on. But this is a day that we're not getting paid. I mean, clear, but it is true that these are distractions. Someone else saying distractions were very fun, but you have to write. If you want to be a writer writes. Have you ever seen the film Throw Mama from the Train? That's the main message of writer writes. Talking about writing is not the same as writing. No more than talking about mountain climbing gets you to the top of the hill. You got to do it.
I did have some quick fire questions, but I don't think they're suitable for Mike. But but I know we're running out of time now. I wanted to make sure everyone got a chance to ask any questions.
Time. No, we don't.
No, we don't. Yes. So
I've got a friend who wrote a children's book. The publishing company didn't do much with it for a while, and he was able to clause in the contract to claim it back fully after 3 years. He'd illustrated it, written it, he's put it back out there. He actually would disagree with you about the conventions because he loves going to schools, he loves meeting everyone, and he makes the same money from selling 600 of the books as he would from maybe, 10,000 of them. So isn't the rise of the independent at its peak now? Isn't this the time to be more independent, to go to these conventions, buy your books, and sell your wares?
But you mean that? It's great for your friend, and we are all appropriately jealous and full of rage. But just because it works for one instance, I mean, I could name a dozen writers who tried that and it didn't work. They spend so much money and time going to events, trying to sell their stuff, and then they end up selling, one or two copies.
Yeah, sure.
So it doesn't always work. But there's no. That's
But
there's no clear model.
You can make good money from school visits and things like
But
that.
that's why he does children's books, so that's
I did kids books for years, and I made a living, and we ended up buying a house out of all the money I made from that. So it's we did very well. One way than get writing comics, but again, you have to have the product to sell to be able to sell the product. You have to do the writing at some point. So every day you spend out, in the library or in school, is a day that you're not creating. There has to be a balance. So, well done to your friend.
Was there any other questions? Yeah.
I've spoken to a few writers, and you try and get them to read your own work, maybe to get a quote. And a lot of writers say they don't read other people's stuff, just in case they subconsciously steal something from it. A few years down the line, they'll write something which is coming to the head because they've read somebody else's. How do you guys feel about other people thrusting their work upon you?
I do that because I cannot guarantee that in 5 years' time you teach me something and I go, ooh, that idea about cancer octopus is nice. So, and you might go, that's my style. And so it's just like best of it, you don't look at it because it's just nowadays, again with social media, things can blow up so quickly that it's just like the best is like, no, I'm sorry. Pitch it to an editor or an agent or something. Then it's my feedback could help a little bit, but it's like I can't get you anywhere. We are just cogs. So you do need to talk to. Thank you very much. But so pushing you to an editor or something is the better thing to do. Somebody who's got a bit of power.
I mean, more we're trying to literally have someone give you a quote rather than help you by saying
well, they'll give you a quote on the
yeah.
You've got a quote. We give you a quote on the published thing, but if it's not done yet, it's still.
Well, I'm talking, maybe the issue of what I write. So, like I say, if we were, I don't do that just in case.
So no, I give a quote on like a published issue, but on like a picture story or anything, just.
If someone says sort of occasionally you get a message out of the blue from Facebook, I've got this great Judge Dredd story. You should picture that. It's no good.
Not that.
Which is different. I know that's different from what you say.
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22. I sort of agree all that time, but one of the ways when I was getting into comics and I'd written scripts, I went along to a signing in Glasgow with John Wagner and Alan Grant and a bunch of artists for that. And I asked if Alan Grant would read my script. I didn't ask John Wagner because he's too forbidding. And Alan took it away, read it, came back and commented, gave me my thing, says, you know, I like it, send it to the editor, tell them I liked it, and you know, it never bought, it's not that it wouldn't happen, but it did.
Alan
He
was
did
an editor as well, wasn't
do
he?
that,
So
yeah.
he had that extra string to his bow.
And then we had a correspondence and, you know, became friends and stuff, and, you know, they say, and I know Alan helped out a lot of other people as well, so that's that thing of like, I would feel this like, you don't, I know what you're saying about reading stuff and all that, but at the same point, people did that with me, you know. And the danger, of course, is you can get overwhelmed by it.
Well, one of the problems of the other side is that if you pitch a story to a writer and think, I've got this idea, what do you think? They are going to have read an awful lot of stuff and they're going to go, that's been done. And the problem is that could put you off. But just because the basic idea has been done doesn't mean that your version of it won't be new and brilliant and exciting. So you have to trust in yourself and do it anyway. But yeah, I mean, it is a tricky one. I'm sorry. And I know, trust in your own work, Phil.
Sorry, did you have a question? You have what should I want? I think it's a content. Am I watching it about 5 minutes? There's one last question.
Sure. I was quite curious with pitching to Matt Smith, the Tharg, getting an idea of like how did you manage to feel him out and sort of get something that you think would be along his lines? Like, how did you figure that out?
I mean, initially, when we
And just getting into the process of understanding Matt Smith's own personal taste. He's quite mercurial, I always find. At least that's the way it seems.
Well, you still get, I mean, I was saying to Ian just before we came on, I pitched something to Matt, as much as I've done a lot of Dread the last few years, and I pitched the big Dread story to him, and Matt passed, you know, he still passes on stuff, you know what I mean? So I think you've got a sense of, for the most part, I think if he keeps giving you work, he trusts you, and, you know, he's a bit Victorian dad, right?
Yeah.
You don't get effusive kind of.
He's a man of very, very.
Yeah. Good work or something.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. Let's bring up a longer email from Mark.
One time he said to me, happy to have that in the plug.
My favourite one I got from Keith was 2 words. It had disgusting, well done.
Well, that's 3 words, but.
Well done. But it was 2 words that I thought, oh.
It's like, I mean, basically, it's like pitching anything really. In as much as you think you've got a good story that you're interested in, you pitch it, but you're not. You don't know for certain. So, but you get I mean, weirdly, because we're all old now, we've been working with Matt, probably all of us, for about 20 years, because I think he's been editor for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes, you never feel totally comfortable with it.
That's the way it should be. If you start feeling comfortable, you then won't do your best work. We're trying to impress this guy who's younger than us. He's very younger than me. Trying to impress him and trying to make him think, oh, that's good. That's the way it should
The
be.
sad thing about 2002 is about the slush pile that it's closed, isn't it? And it has been for quite some time. So an option that a lot of writers did use and managed to get started isn't there anymore, which is quite sad for me. Why is it really bummed no to end this off?
But if he's no stop writing, you've got to.
Yeah. Robbie's book, he's not done.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
which is excellent. I haven't read it, but it's still excellent. First one's really
Have you
good.
got copies of Petrol Head?
We got the Petrol Head trade paperback is out June the 5th, but we got copies through this week, so we have. You can beat the shops if you come down.
That's lovely.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
I'm
God bless
for
you.
my pre-order though. Mike, what have you got with you? Should you let's plug and then we'll.
Point of old plugs. I'm sorry for next to nothing on my table.
Lovely.
Like,
There we go. So please come and visit everybody, and thank you very much for being in the room. And please say thank you very much.